Hello, and welcome to Bipolar Thoughts. My name is Steven, and I'll be your host. Okay, so today we're going to have my girlfriend Asha on the show. She's going to be answering some questions about all kind of shit. So, Asha, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Asha.
Why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit how we met?
Well, we met 3 years ago on Tinder, as you do, during a pandemic and trying to meet people. Maybe not the best way to have done it, but, it worked in our favor. But, yeah, we met on Tinder and started talking. I messaged him because he had a picture with a quote from a song that I knew, and I was like, is this from that song? And he said it was. And then we just started talking about all kinds of things, mostly music, and it still is really not creepy, that's the wrong term, but like our music that like we both grew up with that like I loved, because music was such a big thing for me when I was in like middle school and high school. I mean, the music is still big for me now too, but like all of the bands that like seriously got me through all of that overlapped with the same bands that he grew up with. Like bands I didn't even think anybody knew about, he knew. And, we met in person, and sorry, Mom and Dad. Sorry, Kathy and Dennis. We hooked up, and then we started dating. And that was pretty instantaneous. We probably should have maybe actually dated for a little bit, but we met, and within a week we're basically living with each other.
Yeah, would you say those first 2 weeks were intense?
Yes.
How?
Just it was intense in like a good way. I guess some backstory is I had gotten divorced. Well, I was in the process of getting divorced when we met. It hadn't been finalized, but I had been separated from my ex for over a year at that point, and I was starting to date again, and my ex and I were together for 13 years, so dating and was not really something I ever really did, because I met him when I was 19, and just that was kind of it. So this was all new to me, but where was I going with that? I don't even know. I swear. See, we both have ADHD, and that can be a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started pretty much living together. It was intense because it was so new, and just I had never felt like the way that I felt like with you. Still don't. Like, it's a different kind of relationship than I've had before, and I mean, I felt very much connected, and like it was kind of meant to be. I felt like I had asked the universe for a particular type of person, like a partner, and you matched almost all of it, and I felt very much like it was just the way it was supposed to be. So I knew it was fast, but I almost didn't care, because I felt like I found my person. So
how was it intense, like bipolar wise?
Well, you were honest with me from the get-go that you were bipolar, and I mean, I have had bipolar people in my life before. I had 2 very good friends who were bipolar, and so I kind of knew what to expect a little bit. My friend Ari, her bipolar is slightly different. I think she's one of the other types, but I kind of knew that what to kind of look out for what was like a mania or a depressive phase. I will say that I don't think I really recognized the mania until we were about a month into dating. And when the like newness of our relationship started to wear off a little bit for me, I mean, it was still exciting, but the intense part came from just you wanting to go out all the time. And at the time we met, I had ended a long-term job and had been planning to look for a new one, but also kind of wanted to take a little time off from working, just to enjoy life a little bit. So and he was just in school, so we were going all over the place. I think we went to all the different areas in where we are, and we were going to Greenville every other weekend. Like, we were just all over the place. And it finally got to a point after like 2 weeks straight of us never being home. I was like, I need to not. We need to just dial it back and be inside people for a little while. And I mean, you were pretty, I would say for the first 3 months of our relationship, you were more in a manic phase than you were in a low phase. I don't think the low phases really happened much that I remember right away. But I do remember when you did go into the low phase, that was a little bit of a shock because I had never really been around that part of it with the other people in my life too much. So I know that was a little hard for me because you were really despondent and just, you wouldn't.
Okay, sorry about that. Our dog was going fucking ape shit in there. He does that, sorry. If you hear him, that's just what happens. He loses his shit.
But yeah, so you were just kind of really despondent, like, and nothing I said was kind of breaking through to you, and I just remember you not getting out of bed for like two whole days, and I just really didn't know how to best help you with that, because for me, I hate to say this, but I'm a fixer. I just want to fix it. I want to make everything better and do whatever I can to help you through it.
I think both of us are,
just, more of a nurturer than I am anything else. And so that was really hard to not be able to break through to you during that. But I don't think it lasted more than like 2 to 3 days. I think at most it was 3 days. It wasn't long.
Yeah, my depressive phases I don't think usually last more than a couple of days. My manic phase will fucking last for a while, or it can, but my depressive phase, they used to last a lot longer, which was kind of what I wanted to ask you about. Like, do you remember the difference, or can you tell me the difference between when I was unmedicated and like now when I am medicated?
Oh yeah, it's leaps and bounds different. I mean, because like I said, that first 6 months of our relationship was you unmedicated, and you were very much up and down. When you were up, you were real up, but you were also a lot more quick to, I guess what I never realized was that mania isn't just happy-go-lucky all the time. It's also just up. And like, you would be high energy, but then if you were upset about something, you were like high energy angry, high energy irritated, high energy, you know what I mean? Like, so like your irritability was a lot different than what I had thought or knew about for being bipolar. So I know, like, unmedicated, you were a lot easier to jump to from 0 to 60 pretty much when it came to being irritated or upset or angry or anything like that. And then also, like, your paranoia was a little intense.
That's the thing. Like, people with bipolar, it's hard to like maintain a relationship with anybody, mostly. Specifically, like, romantic relationships, or like long-term relationships, because that, like, a lot of people can't handle that. Like, they can't handle that fucking, like, they can't handle the ups because it's so intense, and they can't handle the downs because the downs are like, I mean, you can't, it's just hard to handle. It's just a hard thing to handle. So, I don't know. So what's it been going like with all these so like all the medication changes, has it been hard to handle? Like, I don't know how to explain that, but like lithium, for example, like,
I did not like you on lithium.
Right.
I mean, it's just the different medication changes. I guess it's been a process for sure, trying to find the right ones that have worked for you, because I mean, what you started on to what you're on now is different. And I mean, when you were on lithium, that was, I think, the worst one, because you were just like a zombie. I mean, there were no happy, there was no sad. It was just despondent, almost. Not despondent, that's not the right term. Like,
was that a fucking airplane?
No, I think it's a motorcycle.
God damn it.
Distractions!
Well, and they're getting this shit too, so that's just fucking, thanks a lot, douchebag.
What was I saying? Not despondent, kind of, it was like, I don't give a fuck times 100. Because you were very much, didn't care one way or the other. It was very just one base thing, which I'm sure for some people is good, but for you, like, you just didn't seem yourself at all.
Yeah, I think that baseline, though, is a different kind of baseline. Like, I think, like, the I don't give a fuck melancholy, like...
Melancholy, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, like, I think that is a little bit different from, like... When people say baseline, I think people mostly think more, like, even keeled. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you were even keeled, but not in a good way.
Right, but I think that's what I mean more. It's like when a doctor says, like, well, especially when a doctor says, like you're like, they mean like the middle of the road. That you're not up, you're not down, but you're just kind of like that even middle part.
But I would say, like, it, and just different. You've been on a couple different ones, like, I forget which one it was called, but you were on one where it just made you so irritated. Like, it didn't matter. Like, you could have had the best day, and one tiny itty-bitty little thing would have set you off in an intense way. And, I mean, I don't mean to say, like, you're, like, raging. I just mean, like, you become kind of a dick when you're irritable.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna argue with that. I mean, I can be kind of a dick anyway. But...
I mean, this is true, but you're a lovable dick 99% of the time.
Except when I'm irritable.
Except when you're irritable.
So, like, now that we know some of the diagnosis, like ADHD, do you find it... Goddamn dog. Again, the hound. Okay, where were we?
I don't remember.
I know, fucking ADHD. That's what we were talking about. Yeah, like ADHD. Okay, so now that we know some of the diagnoses are, like, what they are, do you find it's easier to say, okay, that's just, like that's just bipolar acting up?
I mean, some of it, yeah. Sometimes, I mean, to be fair, it's, I know that logical Asha knows that most of whatever's going on with you has nothing to do with me, but my own insecurities, like, play into some of your moods sometimes, and as much as I know it's probably just your bipolar or just something else that's irritating you, I don't really know. It's just, but like, when you shut down and don't talk, it's harder for me to know, okay, is this just a low part, or is this something that he's upset with me about? Or
right.
And that's been a little hard to differentiate sometimes, but that's more, I think, my own mental health issues.
It's not like I'm very good about, like, opening up about talking about shit either. I'm not a very...
I mean, you've come leaps and bounds since we met, I will say that.
Yeah, but I'm not a bit... I mean, true. But, I mean, I guess I can chalk that up to therapy probably.
Yeah,
but
probably.
But I'm still not a big, like, emotional sharer, talker about my feelings.
Which is the complete opposite of me, where I just want to talk about my feelings. Well, I don't want to talk about my own feelings. I'll talk about your feelings all the live long day.
Right, no, that's the same.
But I don't want to talk about my feelings.
Right, no, I'll...
No, you don't want to hear about my feelings. You just don't like feelings, whether they're my own or yours.
True. I'll problem solve for you, but not a feeling. No. I'm not a touchy-feely guy. Not at all.
Which is so funny to me that's who I ended up with, because I am such a touchy-feely person, and I, like, crave the touchy-feely, and it's been a struggle. You're lucky that I love you.
That's actually my next question, is how do you navigate those challenging moments? Like, well, the question is especially during depressive moments, but, like, how do you get around those like that? How do you get around that?
I don't understand the question.
Well, okay, so I'll just ask you the question, and then we'll just ask the question. Like, how do you navigate the challenging moments? Like, yeah.
Like, okay, well, I just try to kind of be aware that it's probably not something that I can really control or help with, but if I can just be there for you and be supportive, that's going to be the best way to deal with them. Sorry, I just got distracted by my watch. The laundry washers. It says the washers are done, and we already did that. We swapped our laundry about 15 minutes ago. But regardless, it's like squirrel brain right now in my head. But I guess, like, just trying to be supportive. Just trying to be supportive.
You say squirrel brain, all I can think of is Over the Hedge, and that fucking squirrel is like, meow, meow. You know what
I think more of the movie Up, where it's just like that dog who's just like, squirrel, squirrel.
No, I think of the actual squirrel.
Oh my god, okay. Okay, go back. What was the question?
Like, how do you navigate the challenging moments? Like,
I just try to be there for you the best I can and just I try to just let you know that I'm there for you, and that at first I tried really hard to, like, help you fix it, find out. I tried to pull out whatever the problem was, but over time I realized that you don't know 90% of the time what the problem is.
No.
And once I kind of understood that, I kind of backed off trying to fix it. I still try to fix it sometimes, but I try to give you space. I try to give you, just let you know I'm here, but
I will say you've gotten better about that, like,
up your ass.
Right. I mean, well, mostly just like if I tell you, like, look, I'm just stressed the fuck out, let me be stressed, you're like, okay, I'll just let you fucking be stressed for a little while. You know what I mean? And just kind of giving me that space to, like, to be frustrated or mad or because the thing is, like, most of the time I'm not, like, I don't mean to be a dick, it's just I'm pissed off about something, and you just kind of come in at the wrong moment, and you're like, hey, what's wrong? Can I help you? What's wrong? What can I do for you? And I'm like, leave me the fuck alone for a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to be in a mean way. I'm just like, before I say something mean or to you, I just would rather, like, in a regret, like, I would regret saying something mean, but in the moment I wouldn't be able to stop myself, and then I would feel shitty afterwards.
Yeah.
So to cut that off, I'm just like, just leave me alone for a minute, or it could be bad, you know?
Yeah. No, I know. And I mean, I just have to remember that it's not something you can control. And I think a lot of people don't understand that if they're not consistently around or with someone who has bipolar, because to a lot of people, they think that you can just change your mood. Like, if you're in a bad mood, be in a better mood. But that doesn't happen for you. Like, I'm very aware of the fact that this is like a chemical imbalance in your brain, that it's like, it is a disease. It's not something you can control.
And even with medicine, it's still like
it's never going to go away. It can be managed, but
but even it's still going to come through even with medicine. I think a lot of people think, like, you're right, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you take medicine though, you should be
I've
fine
gotten
now.
a lot better at knowing what your triggers are, or at least kind of, not necessarily what your triggers are, but kind of knowing.
I do.
I do. I'm very aware. I guess I've always been, and I know that a lot, like, I don't know if it's just my intuition or me just being attuned to other people, but, like, I am so aware of, like, what kind of does set you off, or what the telltale signs that you're going towards one phase or the other. Like, you have tells for sure, and there might not be something like, it might not be something that anybody else would notice, but I would, just because I'm so aware of, like, how you are in your day-to-day, and, like, one tiny little change in your mood and I know something's off, and then it's more me trying to figure out, well, is this a phase, or is this just him having a bad day, or did something happen that's, he's like, what, is it just a good day, or is it mania? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it is a little challenging sometimes trying to figure those out, but for the most part, I feel like I'm pretty good about kind of knowing what to expect, and I think that's helped me in dealing with the different changes.
So, like, can you describe what it's like when I'm manic? Because that kind of ties into that.
So I would say when you're manic, I mean, our sex life gets, like, infinitely better. Again, sorry, Mom and Dad and Steve's parents. No, you don't. Just wear earmuffs for that part. I mean, it does. That's how that is your biggest tell, is, like, you're a lot hornier all the time.
My mom's gonna hear this and be like, "Oh, fuck."
Well, you said in another podcast that you're, like, talking about when you're manic and sex stuff. But yeah.
She might have skipped over that.
Well, we can just tell her to skip this part. I don't know. But it's a big part of how I know. It is. It's probably your biggest tell. But, like, I also, like, when you start, like, I'm not a morning person. And most days, he's really good because he gets up significantly earlier than I do. Most days, he knows he'll have my coffee ready. And he'll give me, like, 25 minutes before he comes in the room, to the living room to talk to me. He, like, tries to, like, give me that space in the morning. When he's manic, that does not happen. I wake up, and because he's been up for several hours, he's immediately like, ooh, let me just talk at you really fast about anything. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, okay, dude, just slow the fuck down. So that's a tell usually, is when you're more, like, raring to go in the mornings. I mean, you're up before me, but you're a lot more chill most days. Right. But when you're manic, it's like, I need to just speak to somebody. Like, you're just
I'm not really talking to you. I'm just talking.
Yeah, you're just talking. You get more talkative. You go into a lot more detail about things. Like, sometimes it's things I don't really give a fuck about.
I know.
Especially first thing in the morning, but, I just smile and nod and say, aha, and, like, try to listen the best I can. I would say, too, you are more, the not happy parts of mania is that, like, you feel like you need to be going all the time. And so when I say that, I mean, if you're not, like, if your schedule isn't, when you're manic, if your schedule isn't jam-packed, you don't know what to do with yourself. And so you get antsy. I think I'm like that all the time anyway. You are, but not as bad as when you're manic. Like, if you're manic and your schedule only has, like, 2 things in it, and you have downtime, you don't know how to handle the down. You're antsy. You're all over, and then you get irritated. Yeah. And that's what causes the irritation a lot of the times. And then it's like you're manic and you're up and you're on it and on one. And it's that
not
can be
like
a little
drunk on one.
No,
right?
I just mean, like, you can go off on a rant for 15 minutes and like, and just sometimes it's a lot, but it doesn't, since being medicated, I would say your phases are pretty, neither phase seems to last a ton, like, really long. A couple of days at max, usually, maybe a week, for mania anyway. I would say mania lasts longer than the down. Usually, when you're manic, you can be very peppy and social and all those things. I mean, you're not social, but you're more social than normal.
I would say when I'm manic, that's, like, the only time that I'm really, like, I would say, honestly, because when I was younger, I was, like, a really big social, but I was probably manic most of that time. Yeah. I was probably manic as fuck for a long time when I was a kid. I mean, there was probably reasons for that. Yeah. Like, illegal reasons for that. But we won't go into that.
I know, you're sober now. It's fine.
Yeah, right. But I think and now I think that's the only time that I really feel like myself is when I'm manic. I think most of the time, like I feel like I'm not manic and I'm not depressed all the time because I'm medicated, but I think when I feel like the most me is when I'm manic. Yeah. And I think that's because growing up I was used to I was manic, I think most of the time. I mean, I definitely went into depressive phases, I think high school is definitely middle school, and as a kid I showed symptoms of it, but I think in high school, looking back on it, is really jumped up. Yeah. Like ramped up. And I think because I was so used to being manic, I think that's why I feel most like myself whenever I'm manic. Yeah. Because it's most recognizable to me. Yeah. That makes sense.
No, that does make sense.
On the other side of that, what is it like when what's it like when I'm depressed?
When you're depressed in a down phase, because I think that there is a slight difference between when you're just down, like having a bad day, right? Depressed versus
can't get out of the bed.
Can't like down phase. Because when the kids left, you were you hit a depressive phase and then you got out of it, but you were still down, but it wasn't a down phase. Does that make sense? Yeah. That was, I think, just normal depression.
Right, I was just sad.
Just sad, normal sads.
Yeah.
But I would say when I know you're on a down is like if you go like, it's just like there's almost like a physical change. You just seem Eeyore. I hate, like, that's a good example of it. You, like, physically, like, when you're in a good either manic phase or a regular baseline phase, like, you put effort into how you look. You like to dress up more. You feel more comfortable when you're put together. But when you're depressed, you don't care. You typically, like, don't take care, not that you don't take care of yourself, but, like,
right. No, my hygiene goes to shit.
You shower less.
My hygiene goes to
you wear sweats. That's typical
though.
Sweats.
Like that's a bipolar typical symptom though.
You're in bed for, like, you take a lot of naps, but your nighttime sleeping doesn't change.
Right.
I will say that your nighttime sleeping doesn't change whether you're manic or not.
I'm just fatigued more,
yes.
I think. Like
you almost hunch into yourself a little bit too.
I'm just tired.
Yeah. And you don't talk.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you don't, like you said, you're not the most talkative person all the time, but, like, it's a different, you don't talk. It's like and if I ask you something or a question, your answer is always, I don't know, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care,
right.
I don't care. And it's like, you can tell a difference in your voice and the tone of your voice, and it's just, you kind of just sit there. I mean, we could be watching your favorite show and you just don't care. And, like, it's that, like, infinite sadness feeling that I get from you when you're in those phases.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me sad, and sometimes it makes me feel, like, shitty because it's like, I don't know how to help you. I know, and like I said, logical Asha knows that there's nothing I can do to help you but just be there for you. But I do take it personally sometimes. I don't mean to, but that's my own insecurity because I want to make you feel better because I love you. So it's hard to watch sometimes, but, like, I just know that I have to just give you your space and let you just be, and that just give it a couple of days and you'll move out of it.
Okay, so how do you, like, how has that impacted our relationship, like, on a deeper level?
I mean,
like, all of this, like, how does it all, I guess,
impact our relationship? Well, yeah. I mean, it definitely does, in that it is, you have to strive, as a partner, you have to strive, like, as a partner to someone who has bipolar, you have to strive to really be committed to it, because you're not gonna have, like, all these, I mean, nobody has easy days all the time, but it's a little different. Like, it's a commitment to, like, stick through it and, like, know that it's not always personal, that it's not always anything you can control, and, like, it's work, but, like, you're worth it. And I know you hate when I say that, but you are. But yeah, it's just, you have to want to be in it, and it is way more challenging than I think for a non-neurodivergent person, or a person who doesn't have a type of mental disorder or anything like that.
Oh, you definitely have one.
Oh, I know.
No, you definitely have one. You have ADD or ADHD for sure.
I know. It's undiagnosed. We know.
No, but you have it. There's no question.
I mean, and I have depression too, a little bit, and I have a definite anxiety disorder, like, for sure, because I get anxious like nobody's business. But, like, it's,
I think you get stressed out.
Well, I do,
and that causes your anxiety.
Yes and no. Sometimes I'm just anxious to out of nowhere, but
yeah,
I just don't tell you about it.
No, I can tell. I can tell sometimes, and that you can tell. You have your tells. You're pretty easy to read too, but I don't know. I lost my train of thought with that.
But I think it does impact our relationship, because it's learning to work around it. It's learning to love someone through the different ways that you are. I mean, it can be really hard. There's definitely been some hard moments in our relationship that, like, made me, like, question, like, am I able to get through this? Am I able to push through it? And for him and for me, and I think obviously I've chosen yes every time those thoughts have come through. I mean, you and I have been, what situations I'm talking about, like where there's been nights where we've gotten into fights and like we packed a whole fucking suitcase like that. It's learning to work through it and to stick through it and to choose to be in it. Like, I feel like I choose to be with you. Like, I have to choose to be with you in order to make this work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, right. I think that's any relationship, though.
It is.
But I think it's a little, like, I think it's a little extra for people with, like, for you. I think you have to work a little harder at it.
Yeah.
And what's shitty is that, like, I feel like you have way more weight than I do.
What do you mean?
Like, that you
like I carry more weight.
Yeah, like you have to work harder at the relationship than I do because, like, I require more attention. I require more, like, I require a lot because I am a lot, and it's a lot to have to deal with somebody like me. But for me, on the other side, it's not like you're a lot easier. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel guilty that you have to put up with me and all my shit, and that, like, that you have to work as hard. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's like does. I feel shitty about that.
I know, but the thing is that it's not, you shouldn't feel shitty about it because it's a choice I make. And obviously by me choosing it, it means that I'm in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're my last resort, like you are the only person. Like, that's not why I choose to be with you. I choose to make it work because you're you. And I love you, and I love the way that you love me, and I love our relationship. And I know you just cringed. He doesn't like to hear these things, but I like to tell them to him all the time, just maybe with the hope that one day it'll stick in his brain.
I mean, it sticks. I just don't like to hear it.
But yeah, it's I don't know, maybe I think, and maybe I do, I think I like the chaos of it a little bit. I mean, I think that
I can imagine that it's fun. It
can be fun. It's not dull. It's not dull. And I mean, does it suck sometimes? Yeah. Have there been some really hard times where it's like, what are we doing? Yeah. But like I said, I don't know. There's just something, when we met, and the sound, like, I know this sounds hilly and people are going to be like, how do people just know? I don't know. I just knew. I felt it in my bones that, like, this was it. This was all I needed. And so because I know that, it makes it easier to fight through it for me.
What advice would you give to others who are in a relationship with someone that has bipolar?
I would say definitely if you have had no experience with it or don't know anybody who has it, educate yourself a little, look it up, read about it.
Yeah. And
if you have the means to talk with a therapist, I'd have a therapist because it helps. I say that not having one right now, but I've also been through a lot of therapy, so I was able to take those tools that I already had into this. But patience, knowing that try to remember it's not always you. Don't take that on personally. That was a big one for me, was to learn to let go of taking it personally. As I said before, like, I still do sometimes, but for the most part, I think I've gotten a lot better at not taking it personally. And just know that all you can do is really just support them through things. I mean, our relationship's a little different because it's not, I can't say, had we met when you were younger and just, going through different, like, phases, I don't know that we would have stayed together because, like, the thing is like, part of what makes us work now too is that you are sober. And, like, so I know that addiction can be a really big thing for people who have bipolar, and if that's who your partner is, just try to get them help, but know that they're the only ones that can help themselves when it comes to that, but that
took me a long time to learn.
Yeah.
Like, on my own.
Like, so I can only really, say advice from a person who's with someone who is sober, because I feel like to be with a person who has bipolar and an addiction is a lot harder. Not saying it can't be done. I think it definitely can be. I mean, I feel like that makes you a saint, though, a little bit.
What?
Being with somebody who has an addiction and bipolar.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure.
And if you stick around.
No, yeah. For sure. Like,
but, like, I'm getting off topic here. But I guess more advice, just try to just be patient. Don't get upset with them for things they can't control. Although, I mean, for us, it's easier because, like, you're the typical, like, manic behavior you haven't had much of. Like, you're not crazily spending money. You're not having
I'm like
risky
the opposite
sex.
of that now. I'm like,
you know what I mean? Like, so, like, I think it'd be different if, like, you were kind of like, I think being medicated helps a lot. I think that's why you're not making all those, like, impulse decisions. So that does help. I would encourage your partner to work with a therapist or a mental health professional if they're not medicated, because I think being medicated really helps for this. You can definitely do it without it for certain types of bipolar. I think the one that you have, Steve, is one that needs to be medicated. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I cannot go without medicine.
I mean, my good friend Ari, she is unmedicated, but she also has a slight different, I forget which one she has, but it's not the same as you. But she also did go through a lot of intensive therapy to get to where she could manage it without medication. So I would say, like, just if your partner hasn't even, if all they have is a diagnosis, then just encourage them to stick with a mental health provider and to work through it, and maybe even see one yourself if it's, you know, just to get some tools on how to deal with it, and just, you know.
I think be a part of it, like be active.
Be active in it.
Is a big part of it. I think is kind of what
proactive
too. You're right. Like, learn the signs and symptoms and the triggers and shit, and know that that's what's know the storm before it's coming.
Yes, that you know that definitely helps. I would say too, like, communication between your partner and yourself. You know, whoever else your support system is. And
learning that communication, learning how to communicate, because people with bipolar, I mean, I don't know about everybody with bipolar. I know me personally, it's hard for me to communicate, especially, like, most of the time I don't know what I'm going through. Like, I don't know how I'm feeling. I don't know anything. Like, I know we need to go get the laundry. I don't know how to explain those things, and so for a lot of people that can be frustrating. So I think it's important to just kind of, like, take a breath, take a step back, and just understand, well, they don't know what the fuck they're going through, so how the hell am I supposed to understand what they're going through? You know, and not just not get frustrated with it. So yeah, I think that was
and just make sure to and I mean, I'm bad at this, but I'm getting better at it. Don't throw everything you have into this other person, because you're going to be the most beneficial to your partner if you're also taking care of yourself.
You're right.
If you don't just throw everything you have into bettering the other partner, because you'll never be able to completely do that, because this is not a disease that gets better.
Right.
It can be managed, but it's never going to go away.
Right.
And the quicker you realize that and kind of remember to take care of yourself too and protect yourself too, I think is helpful, because there are times where, like, I've had to, like, be like, no, I can't do what you want to do right now. Like, I know that you were, you know, think it's this great big idea, but I knew enough to, like, step back and, like, kind of protect my own energy, if you will, a little bit. Because if you're out of, I guess the analogy is, if you're out of spoons, or if you've given everything, all of your energy to this other person, then you can't help them any, like, it's gonna deteriorate your own self, and then you're no good. Like, you're no good to being able to help them, and you're no good to yourself, and that's kind of, like, not a good, healthy way to be about it. So I would say just take care of yourself too. Make sure you're taking time to take care of yourself, and you know, when you're able to do that, then you can better be there and be supportive to your partner.
No, I agree. We need to go get the laundry because my
That's
alarm
true.
went off, and we need to go get the laundry.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
should
cut
go
this
do
off.
that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for doing this for me. I appreciate it.
If people have questions, you know, send them in, and we'll answer them.
Yeah, maybe you can answer some of them. That'd be cool.
I feel like that'd be way more, because like this is great just having prompt points, but like I don't know how to best like answer something.
Well, I think if some people like had questions and they sent them in, we could sit down and have another one and answer some of their questions that way. I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah. All right, let's go get this laundry and be done with it.